This is dedicated to the black woman. The first teacher, the first nurturer, the first protector, the foundation of the family. Without a sacrifice, without a strength, without a love, yeah, many of us wouldn't be here today. Wake up, black people. Wake up, black people. Wake up, black people, look around and see the war ain't overseas, it's right in our streets. Young kings killing kings before they 23. Then another mother crying on the evening news feed. Another little baby growing up without a dad. Another young sister carrying trauma from the past. Another grandmother praying while she holding back tears, watching violence multiply year after year. We scream for justice when the world does us wrong, but how we gonna rise if we destroy our own? Every funeral, another dream laid to rest. Every casket, another wound in the community's chest. The ancestors didn't survive for us to die like this. Didn't fight through oppression for us to live like this. Somewhere we lost the code, somewhere we lost the way. And if we don't change now, what future can we save? Wake up, black people. The babies need us now. Wake up, black people. The mothers need us now. Protect our women, protect our children, protect our elders. Let's rebuild our village. Wake up, black people. Yeah. Wake up, black people.
All right. This is, and you are Under the Groove. Welcome everybody to Under the Groove Podcast. Everything is everything. Grand Rising, each and every one of you. Here I am, and there you are. Let's get into it. Let's do how we do. You already know this is Monday. I want to say, hey, send a shout out to everybody, man. Welcome to Monday. And the thought is, may you have done everything in this day possible for you to make it a better day. You know, way better than it was yesterday. We're not going to think about tomorrow. Right now. Right now is where we at. All right. So I just want to say that and send that shout out, you know. That being said, I got a couple of things lined up I want to drop, man, because I think that we realize that we're in a fight, but not enough of us do. Not enough of us are attentive to the point where we're seeing what's happening and it's registering. You know what I mean? And again, you know, we use terminologies and stuff that really don't fit the moment. Boycott. That ain't got nothing to do with nothing. You know what I mean? We're talking about group economics, wealth transfers, blacks dealing with blacks in business, and blacks dealing with blacks only. B1 equals black first. Let's take our dollars to our people first. You know, let's get it to that point where we're appreciating one another and each other. You know, that's what we should be considering. Everything else, I'm telling you, is superfluous, man. It don't mean nothing. It ain't about nothing. Again, if it don't represent what we're about, what we're supposed to be doing for one another, for yourselves, your family, especially your immediate family, and then all those who are around you. If we're not functioning, programming on that, if we're not code on that, hey, then I think what we're doing then is in vain. It's in vain, you know, and we got to consider all that, you know. So there's a few things I want to bring to mind, you know, a few things, man. Again, I'm saying all this because, you know, we just had what, you know, the YT people call Independence Day. You know, I don't think we're as ignorant to think or believe that that pertains to us. For any of you who do, you know, it just means, you know, that's that indoctrination in full effect that had nothing to do with us. You know, to this day, it shows it has nothing to do with black folk. Now, that being said, again, over the weekend, this July 4th weekend, we had some incidents, man, with the people, man. Black kings, young black kings killing each other and others. You know, I want to send a shout out first and foremost. I want to send a shout out to those black activists who were unalived on the 4th of July. That is that's crazy work, man. You know, that's crazy work. Anytime we come together, we ought to know or have the presence of mind to know that we're coming together to celebrate us, to celebrate us. You know, it's not to retaliate or any of that shit, man, that we see taking place in our communities. We're in a fucking war, man. And again, a lot of us don't get it, you know, and I don't know why. There's a number of reasons or factors we can point to that would say, okay, this is why this mindset is wired this way, and this is why these behaviors and so forth are, you know, directed towards this or the third. You know, there's a lot we could throw in the pot to make excuses for why our people are behaving the way they are. You know, I just had somebody get at me in the comments and they were saying, hey, man, excuse me, it's crazy work that gangbangers or ex-gangbangers would get in here and be about, you know, unity and things of that nature. And I responded real simply. I said, hey, man, you know, for a lot of us, it's going to take some shit. We're going to have to go through some shit to get to some things, you know. And I was one of them individuals, you know. But by the same token, or in the same way, I call myself being active and about the streets, man. I'm no longer a part of that. I'm no longer involved in that per se, in the realest sense. But by the same way, I use that energy to be a part of that. That's the same way I'm utilizing my energy now in this respect. You know, to first and foremost say, hey, I fucked up. I was wrong, man. None of what I did was right. You know, everything I learned or I learned how to be, it had, you know, it had nothing to do to or towards the betterment of my family, myself, my family, and or the people. So yeah, I take responsibility and I'm held accountable. I hold myself accountable to those actions in my past. I know I can't take none of that back. That happened. So what I do in the process, what I do now, today, and if I make it to tomorrow, it'll be the same thing, is bring to the table some positivity, you know, something that speaks to our being productive, something that speaks to empowering each other, one another. You know, it's about the uplifting of the people, not the denigration or the destruction of the people. You know, those actions, I can tell you from experience, it's a fact. It's just detrimental. It don't build nobody. Nobody wins. You know, we lose. We are Xing out our own people for what? You know, so that's the realization I had to come through. And I had been in that gang life for some 40 something years, you know, damn near 50, you know, but I'm not saying that. I don't glorify none of that shit. Just put it like that. What I do recognize is that we're in a situation where we are committing more harm to ourselves, you know, than we are good. You know, we're not committed to making sure each and every one of us is straight, is protected, is respected, you know what the real fight is about. But that's that street life, you know, and everything that props it up. You know, social media is one of those things nowadays where a lot of our people get caught up in social media and they tend to think that's the way they should carry on, behave, speak, act, you know, or present themselves. And it's not, it's wrong. You know, so to that individual who dropped that comment, and I left it there for all to see. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. Yeah, so true. You're right. You know, but I won't allow my past to prevent me from doing something positive and right now in the present, you know. So again, I want to send that shout out to all those Black activists who are unalive this 4th of July, man. That's some sad and like I say, crazy work. May we get to the point where we see the damage we're causing ourselves and we reflect on it long enough to understand, to understand why we get this treatment from other people. See, it's our actions, our behavior towards one another that these people are tuning in on, you know, and they see how we carry on with one another, how we act towards one another. We're more respectful to other demographics than we are to ourselves. And they see that. They see that. They actually function on that when dealing with us, you know. So we have to be mindful. Let's bring a new day, a new age. Let's get into the motion of this shift that is taking place, because this shift, this movement is for the betterment of the people. Pure and simple. Might be hard for a lot of you to understand, overstand, but that's the truth. That's the truth. Again, man, our condolences to those families who have lost loved ones just recently. Crazy work, man. Now, not only that, but I got a few clips, and I think today is a serious day. This is our Motivation and Momentum Monday. All right. What motivates us, man? We need to find that which motivates us to be on the right track, to get done what we know we need to do. And this is an individual thing as much as it is a collective, endeavor. You know what I mean? We have to, as individuals, be mindful, what's really happening, so that we can function or go about life based upon our knowledge and understand, our awareness of what is taking place around us. All right. There's a difference between being conscious and then having the conscious, being conscious and a conscience. All right. There's a difference. I saw an individual today, S.A. Netter, and I think the brother name was Jamal or Jabari, with UNC 607 and WAC 100. And immediately I say, oh, that makes no sense, because those are two different realms, two different planes, schools of thought. You know what I mean? For one, to have 607 up to call that type of sit down, individuals had to be on some kooky shit to even agree with 607 up in that type of setting. But immediately you saw WAC was out of his element. If it's not derogatory, if it's not detrimental, if it's not about negativity, that's not WAC space. Real spit. So you don't put a WAC with S.A. Netter. Common sense. Common sense. Because that's not the game he coming to play. That's not how he get his recognition, his influence, his followers. That's just not, It's, and I'm not taking sides, but I'm gonna call a duck and a strike when I see one. He's out his element, and he used false, claims to get out of that space where they were supposed to be discussing positivity, empowerment, uplifting other people. You know what I mean? It never got there because the shit went sideways immediately. And I don't know if some of you brothers and sisters saw that get down. I saw it. It's disgusting. It's embarrassing. Again, when we're talking about influence or influential people, man, always remember and know what space they fit in. What space they fit. I would never have a guest come on Undergroove Podcast TV and they not about uplifting the people, respecting one another, unity, dignity, things of that nature, love for one another. I would never, no, I would not do that, So that's not a shout out to 607 or none of them, because brothers supposed to know better. When we know better, we do better. And that's all I got to say on that. Now, that being said, I ran across some shit today, man, that was quite disturbing, but at the same time, it's expected. Again, our people, we seem to not know that we're at war with people, that people have no love for us. Period, point blank. There's only one thing we can do for other demographics outside of being Black Americans. That is to give them our money. And when we fall short of that, when we don't meet that bar, meet that level of what they desire from us, they let us know how they feel, So anytime we get brothers and sisters getting to talk about Black and brown unity, I tend to think they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I think that they've never really experienced racism from the brown class, like a lot of them have never experienced racism from the so-called yellow class, the Asians. This is why you see a lot of sisters continue to go into these businesses that are owned by Asians because they have no real experience, And not only that, a lot of them are closed-minded. in the respect that, you know, they don't care about what happened to someone else as long as it don't happen to them. And they're always the ones who will come on social media complaining about how somebody treated them. But damn, dummy, you didn't get the memo, not because it wasn't sent to you. You didn't get the memo because you didn't pay attention to it. You know what I mean? You didn't read it. You didn't comprehend what was being said or what the code was or how we need to go about doing business with other people. You know, so again, we'll see them. There's a plethora of them already in social media complaining about treatment. But hey, dummy, we told y'all. Y'all acting like these other people we didn't told about President Trump and a whole slew of other people, situations, systems, programs, governments. We didn't told all you people. Now y'all acting like them, like ain't nobody told y'all nothing. You're gonna get what you deserve, But I got something. I got a clip. And that clip, I'm telling you, matter of fact, I'm gonna run that right quick because I think that's relevant. So I want to run this right quick before I lose my mindset on this thing, man. No, that's not it. I got to make sure I get the right one for you all. All right, got it. All right, now get a part of this. And I'm telling you, you don't use it for ammunition. What I'm about to show you, what's going to be said, what you'll read and see, it's not ammunition. It's just, understanding that you're acknowledging people's frame of mind, how they see us. And this is specifically from the Mexican community. So when we go into this get down and we say, hey, man, what's happening to the Asians, it should not just be, selective for them. If we're going to do this, we do this to everybody that we know for a fact is against us, want to see us harmed, Look for our women who are unprotected, our children who are unprotected, so they can do them harm, And for when there are times they can't find nobody to be a victim of theirs, they'll do it verbally through social media. We have to be mindful of this stuff, man, and stop falling for this shit that they're doing. What I mean by that is when they say, "Oh man, hey, we need to come together, SA and da 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 da." They're not with that like that. They're not with that like that. To them, we're nothing but dollars, just like with the Asians, the Jewish people, the YT people, the Indians and anybody else, So keep that shit in perspective, man, so that you won't be played like a fool, because they think the majority of us, they think we're fools. Put it like that. All right, here you go.
Vernon, and that looks like Fig to me. And you was talking about all the street vendors that are on the streets. For those of you who may be asking,
so for context, this sister, Brandy Kane, she's out of an area in LA. She went and did this thing, man, and almost like just a survey, so to speak. And she walked up a stretch of sidewalk, and she noticed all these immigrant workers preparing food to sell. None of them had on gloves, things of this nature, what I mean? And she was wondering, where was ICE? Or where was the health department, because, let's be fair. Some blacks would stop at these establishments and order some shit, and then wonder, later in the day or the next morning why they're so sick, But I got her point.
Okay, why is Brandy talking about these street vendors? Here in LA, when black folks started setting up our street vendor stuff, the Mexican vendors called the police. They did things, and they kind of unionized to harass and trying to get black street vendors off the street.
Did you hear that? Because that's what they do. That's the practice they employ. Anytime we'll set up something, the police will show up and ask you for your vendor's license. Can you do this? Where's your health? Have you been checked by the health department? You know what I mean? Shit like that. This is what they do. They don't only do it to street vendors. They do it in our jobs. They try to get us fired, laid off, sacked, so that they can bring in their people. This is the program. And again, a lot of us are taken for granted, thinking that they cool. They're not.
And that's been a problem since street vending's become more of a legal thing here in LA. So Brandy's out there doing God's work. And I'm gonna play the video of her just going up and down and talking.
I don't know if it's God's work, but she out there doing the work of the people, you know,
about what's going on, and showing what's going on with the vending and how they're taking over valuable sidewalk space in LA. My bad for talking too much, Brandy. Brandy, go ahead. What's going on here, please?
You know, just like what you said,
A prime example why we
black
cannot
vendors have been known for getting out in the streets, and the second they do, they've been you know, known to have the police called on them, and you know, all of a sudden all the regulations have to be followed. When we see these vendors lining up in droves, I mean, it's more and more and more popping up every single day. I'm not exaggerating. And there's no regulations. I've literally seen the people touch money and go right back to touching the food. And even if they are using gloves, the gloves are contaminated also. I mean, I've seen it time and time again where they just have no regulations to answer to, but we would never be allowed to conduct ourselves in the same way and try to practice that type of group economics uninterrupted. And, you know, it's becoming an eyesore throughout the city. They're leaving the tents overnight. In my opinion, they're also breaking the ADA laws in many situations where they're having people dining on the sidewalk. Whereas if I was in a scooter or I was pushing the stroller or if I was disabled of some sort of to some capacity, you know, you can't even pass by on the sidewalk. So it's just becoming a bigger, like I said, to me, a bigger eyesore and imbalanced practice that the city officials allow for these people to do. And on top of that, many of them are just not even here legally to begin with. So we've seen how illegal immigration has already pushed us out of many of the workplaces where we can find legitimate work. And then when we as Black people try to take to the streets and do something similar like that, we are sabotaged a great deal. And these people are allowed to do whatever they want, set up shop any time of the day, anywhere, any corner, and have even tried to, in my opinion, encroach on certain areas of the Black community. And we've had to put a stop to that because, you know, that's not what we're checking for.
Hey, hold on one second, Brandy.
You know what I mean?
I'm going to say one thing. Not in your opinion. They did try to encroach and y'all did check them. I appreciate y'all for bringing, because we don't know. If we ain't out there in the streets, we don't know. You did a great job of letting people like me and the rest of us know that they were encroaching on, they were doing this to Black businesses. And y'all did a really good job of putting that out there.
Yeah, because for example, on Slauson and Western, there used to be a big lot, so now it's an empty parking lot. That was a Black man holding that spot down for a very long time, selling barbecue, and he was on Slauson.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Next thing you know, they came and started taking his spot, and now he's on the other side. He's on Western. And then it was just one. Now there's about 5 of them. Anywhere there's an abandoned business, or, I mean, they don't even care if it's an abandoned business. They'll set up a taco stand in front of a taco store. You know, so it's like, how is that fair to the restaurant and everybody else who's trying to do their thing in the right and legitimate type of way? When these people, there's a number of permits and certificates and things that you're supposed to have for street vending.
Yes.
And the vendor themselves included, and all the workers that are handling the food. And we know that's not happening out here. Mm-hmm. We know that's not happening. And, you know, that, you know, just go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. This is ours. You know what I mean? It's very, very much, it's a whole lot of audaciousness going on.
As long as we got dudes out here like how we the media.
1 second. Okay, go ahead. My bad. I had something planned. Go. I'm playing the other video right now with them harassing, but keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's just pretty much where we're at. We're at an all-time high with the audacity and the entitlement because in no other country, I've traveled the world, no other country.
Subs.
Yeah, so there's a few influencers, I suppose. Now, I didn't know this. You know, we a little bit of another generation at this point. And so I'm really not super well versed on the TikTok algorithm or all these different influencers or whatever. I didn't even know that.
All right, she's about to get into the part I wanted you guys to get a bar of, but that what I showed you just now was also significant. Just give us an idea of what's taking place. But again, the majority of us see this shit happening right before our eyes, you know, where there used to be a black vendor, no longer a black vendor there, you know, who's there now, you know? So how did they get that spot? You know, what, you know, the plot, machination did they put down to get that black spot vacant, to have it become vacant so they can move their wares and, you know, what they sell in that spot. Now, if this is really becoming an issue, this is an issue for these individuals, these politicians who ask for our vote. And see, we're just going and we're being real lackadaisical about our votes. We just give them away. We just give them away. Person black, I want your vote. You just get right to them. That individual, that politician may not have the same ideas and thoughts in terms of the black community that we have because we're in that community. They aren't. You know, they aren't. They done moved, they done packed up and moved over there with the white tea people. You know what I mean? For the most part. But they wouldn't understand. They don't care about that because in politics, you know, you can't be a sore thumb, right? They'll figure out a way to get rid of you. And that's how a lot of black politicians look at it. Well, if I go the way my people want me to go, I won't be in this seat. So, you know, they initially say, well, let me play ball a little bit. But before you know it, AIPAC then got a hold of them. The Hispanic caucus then got a hold of them. The Asian caucus then got a hold of them. And they doing everybody's bidding but the black caucus or the black, you know, the black vote or the black population. This is what we see take place all the time, you know. But the part I want you guys to see is coming up right now.
Dude existed. Apparently, this dude got a hold of my video or he snatched it or whatever. And I've been in the same situation with the Nigerians in 2021 when I told the Africans they wasn't standing in solidarity with us, and they wasn't. And here we are now, we having the delineation conversation. So I realized I was just ahead of my time with that. So I've been through the same exact thing. Well, not quite though, because the Nigerians wasn't making no threats. But anyway, so there's a dude named 44 Vato, and then another dude named Hot Wheeler Media. HOTWILA, whatever. And then 44, the numbers 44 VATO. So between Hot Wheeler Media and 44 Vato, you know, they both snatched my video.
Look at what they're saying. All right. Look what they're saying.
They both, you know, remixed it, put their own.
I'm gonna circle everyone that come up. I'm gonna circle it so you guys can see what they're saying. These are Mexicans.
Spin on it, their own narrative on it, and yes,
these are Mexicans saying this, you know, about our people, about that sister.
The TikTok team.
Y'all see this one? The hard R, not the A. Just let you know.
Age Latino community, but even, you know, of all ages, I've gotten hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages.
Look at this. Look at this.
Of hate mail. I've gotten three messages that were civil and attempting to have a
you know, this is how they talk to our people.
A discourse with me and to understand where I was coming from. But the majority of the messages that I have received from Mexicans of all different ages have been nothing but vile and racist and threatening and demeaning and everything else. Now, not that I take none of that personally. They can't hurt my feelings at all. None of that hurts my feelings. That just lets me know I'm doing the ancestors' work. You understand? But I had up to 2,000 people looking at my story, and I ain't never had my story go up like that. You know what I mean? So it shows you that, you know, the controversy gets really pushed out there into the algorithm. But hey, you know, I'm glad it happened. And yes, I have been receiving many threats. I'm saving these people's pictures, their profiles, their IP addresses. Certain people have made more harsh threats than others, talking about they're going to have my address, they're going to come to my crib, whatever, you know what I mean? Things, or they're going to catch me slipping, they know where I be at, you know, all kinds of different little threats. But, you know, I'm covered by the Most High. I got a praying grandmother. You know, I'm never worried about nobody threatening my personal safety, because if there is an attempt to made like that, you know, I'm going to have to act accordingly. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I got to say on that. You know what I mean? And, you know, other than that, you know, Most High is going to hold my hand and walk me through this. And this is to be expected. Whenever you stand up for Black people, this is what come with it.
And this is what we say. Ain't nobody our friends, man. Same thing, or in the same way we're dealing with Asian businesses, we supposed to have that same energy for all the rest who do the same shit. Can't be no passes, man. Can't be no fear. You know, ain't straddle the fence. If they're willing to do our sisters like this, they'll do our children like this. They'll do us like that if they think they can get away with it. So my point has always been, especially initially dealing with this Asian issue, hey man, all of them fit under that. All of them fit under that umbrella. All of them. You know, and if we stay the course, we stick to code, then we'll search out, we'll seek out and find our people who have the same businesses, whether that be on the streets or in social media or on the internet. They have the same businesses. Our people grow food. We have access to banks, credit unions, stores, gas stations might be a different issue, no doubt. But hey, if we're going to do this, then do this. Let everybody know, put everybody on notice. We done with all this shit, man. It just seems wrong to be selective when, everybody is doing exactly what the Asians have done.
Billion was just running for campaign, and we had a brother that was put up, we suspect put up by Tom Steyer's money to come over there and threaten Brother Billion's life. And he said those words, when Billion is killed, I will be the reason. So we understand that this is the type of work that we do. It comes with the territory, and we stand on the mighty, mighty shoulders of the ancestors, and they're going to keep us uplifted. And
look at this shit. The shit they say. You can't say that about one black woman, man, or child and not mean it. It got to be direct. You have to know it's directed at each and every one of us. Let's not be subjective, selective. Let's not be this way, have this energy for one demographic when there are other demographics who are doing the same exact thing to our people.
Keep us prayed up, keep us surrounded, keep us in, and have our back,
Yeah, you're right. What I'm doing right now, Brandy, is I'm on your Instagram, and I'm playing the reel that you put up with all the threats that you've gotten. This is this is a pretty long goddamn reel. And
and there's more. That's just what I had time to capture. Like, those are just some of the worst ones. You know what I mean? But I got tons, hundreds. So that goes to show, that is the proof in the pudding that the majority are racist. The majority.
That's what we've been saying here at Under the Groove. Listen, man, it's in their homes. So damn well it's in their communities. It's in the space where they sell us goods, and just like the Asians, they'll speak that shit. They're not so readily or open when they speak it because they realize some of us understand Spanish better than we do, the Asian dialects, Mandarin, Cantonese, or whatever it is, Vietnamese, Korean. They know Mexicans or Hispanics, Latinos know that we understand Spanish a lot better than that. And yet they still attempt to do this because a lot of us are ignorant of the language. We don't know how to key on certain words, lock them in and know what they're saying other than mayate. That's what we look for. They don't never have to say all that, to be disrespecting us while they're taking our money. Be mindful of that.
Of them are racist. Of all ages. Because a lot of these TikTokers, they're kids. There's people playing on my phone. I can tell it's teenagers calling my phone in the middle of the night. Teenagers do teenage things. We make crank calls. We've all done it. I got from cholos with tattoos on their face and their necks telling me what they're gonna do down to little kids. You know what I mean? So all generations is coming at me sideways, and I can count the messages that I got that were civil and, like I said, attempting to have some sort of understanding about where I was coming from. So that goes to show you, Black people, where we stand. We have no friends. Once again, we have no friends. There is no Black and brown unity, and we need to recognize and realize that like yesterday.
The sooner the better. And I'll reiterate what she said. We don't have any friends. There's no such thing as Black and brown unity. There just isn't, And for all our brothers and sisters who are caught in that mindset, thinking that it is, more likely than not, you're going to get a rude awakening. You're going to receive a rude awakening. There's no such thing as a strategic alliance with any of these people. especially when we consider we don't have our shit together enough to even want to be allied with other people. You know what I mean? So our first job is getting our shit together before we should even consider, mounting up with somebody or professing to have an alliance or, some type of a solidarity with individuals who don't really think like that or look at the situation like that. She said it best. I'm just reiterating it. The proof is in the pudding, man.
Real talk. I know you got to go pretty soon, but I do want to clear up some confusion for people that are gonna say this. As a black woman, as a black person in LA, even though we're outnumbered, are you really worried about some Mexican coming saying any of this stuff to your face?
Not necessarily, because I walk freely out in the streets. I move around free. You know what I mean? I'm outside right now. You know what I mean? I'm never gonna be ducking hiding in the house.
All right, we're gonna leave it at that, man. I just wanted to share that with you guys, man. Like I say, coming to this conversation, touch bases with the people in that respect. This thing with the Asians, okay, is going swimmingly, okay. But the fact of the matter is, we're being selective, man, when we have demographics who are doing the same exact thing to our women, our children, and our people. So, like we suggested here and other podcasts have said, it's time to pivot. It's time to pivot from just them to all of them. A lot of us doubted that we wouldn't be able to make as much ground, to be as successful as we've been with the Asians. Surprise, surprise. All right. And the coldest thing about that is that a lot of people are actually really now just getting into the flow of it. For every day that passes, there are more brothers and sisters who are in alignment with what's going on. They're up to code. You know what I mean? So let's be on code, period. Not just with Asians, with all of them who disparages against us, who disrespects us, who want to do us harm. Let's just be mindful of that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just us saying, okay, hey, we get it. And as a result of that, this is how we're going to act. This is how we're going to carry on our business. Let's do it just like that. That was the first. I got another one. Let me read some of these comments. Appreciate everybody up in here. All right. Y'all already know what it is, man. This is Under the Groove Podcast. Welcome, everybody. Please like, share, follow, and subscribe to this. Get down, y'all. We got a lot of work to do. Trust. Henry Sadello say, hey, man, peace, blessings, brother Bub. One love to each and every one in the chat tonight. Salute. Salute right back to you, Henry. I see you front and center, man. All right, B60. There you go. You back on course, man. Say greetings and salutations to you, Bub, and the RGC B1. The Royal Group congregation is black first. Period, point blank. We say that, we get out like this unapologetically, respectfully, but we're not making no apologies, man, just in terms of what we're doing. All right, C1 back, y'all. She said, greetings from the deep D. Good to see you up in here, Sister Queen. You had us worried about you. May everything be everything on your end, all right? The fact that you back is a beautiful thing, and we love it. We love and miss you, girl. All right, C1 is back, y'all. Antonio Anthony, what it do, loved one? Love and salute right back to you, bro. I see you. Lisa Moore, another one of our Queen sisters, is in the house. She said, Grand Rising, Brother Bub, blessings to you and the family, peace and love to the kings and queens in the RGC Black First, people. Good to see you, C1. I hope all is well, sister. Here. Good to see her, man. All right, there you go, y'all. Let her know. She been missed. Been worried about you, girl. She said, C1 say making breakfast, positive pancakes. Oh, yeah, so on the other side of the world, it's just now daylight over there. All right, Grand Rising then, sister. Queen Nzinga's in the house. Queen Nzinga 7-4 says, peace and blessings to the RGC. It's a new week. Have a productive, positive, and purposeful Monday. Let's make this week count. That's right. Appreciate that comment from each and every one of you, especially from you, Queen Nzinga. See, one said, while listening, in love to all my brothers and sisters, as you should be. Hey, yeah, Henry. All right, you say S.A. Natter and Brother Jabari, educated brothers, and Unc 607 is no dummy. Wack couldn't hold an intelligent conversation with them brothers, so he acted an ass, disrespectful. That's my point. I saw that immediately, but before I even heard any dialogue or conversation, I said, oh, that's not good. You know, anybody that knows any better knows that that's not his forte, to speak truth to power. You know what I'm saying? Talk about dignity, heritage, ancestry, identity, love for the people. That ain't him. You know, that ain't him. Now, be that as it may, whether or not 607 is versed, that's one thing. But what I do know, when I watch the brother, I see a whole lot of ignorance. You know what I mean? And a duck is a duck and a strike is a strike. The brother carry on like a buffoon. Now, and if he's an intelligent brother, I can't tell. You know what I mean? And that ought to be not something he do, but I get why Wack is Wack. Why 607 is 607 These guys playing for the entertainment aspect of it, the likes, the clicks, the subs. I get that. And again, it's like India Ari is saying about Young Miami. I ain't knocking you. That's your get down. Don't agree with it, But the fact of the matter is what you're doing is detrimental, Now, a lot of people will come in the defense of these individuals I just mentioned and say, well, hey, man, we got all kind of shit going on in the communities, this, that, and the third. Hey, shit, why just focus on the onus on me, Hey, man, in response to that, yeah, we on all that shit, we on all that shit. We not with the buffoonery, man, the frivol. We're trying to tell the people, man, this is what part of the problem is with us and for us. This is us doing damage to each other. And as a result, we got people on the wings watching every bit of what we say and do, and when they see this aspect or this side of us, this behavior where we go in on our own before anybody else, what do you think they're coming up with? What do you think they're thinking? I just heard somebody today say a Mexican. Well, shit, they call themselves that shit all day, every day. Something that the slave master called them. Look at them. They call themselves that every day, all day. And anytime somebody else say something in that regard, it's a problem. So make it make sense. I agree. Make it make sense. There's no reason, nowhere in the world, any of us, melanated black people that come from whatever the hell we came from, should be spewing that or allowing that to come out our mouths. Real spit. Find you another adjective, find you another phrase or word, find a filter, a filler word, you know what I mean? Anything but that. But again, we get up in arms when anytime someone else says it, not realizing though, they're only mimicking, repeating what we say so profusely, so calm, so normally, and then we have the audacity to be up in arms, have our feathers ruffled because someone else has repeated what we've been saying to one another for so long. Man, make it make sense, man, But back to what I was saying, with that type of platform, that interview was all bad. As soon as I saw it, I thought, oh, this is not going to end well, And again, even if brother 607 is enlightened, you can't tell the majority of the time, whether he's a dummy or not is one thing. What he's doing is another. And we have to, just point that out. Let's say what it is. How smart can he be, And some would say, oh, he's super smart because he getting the bag. Look what that's cost us. Look what that's cost us, man. And that go for all of them who do it. That's a huge price to pay. You know? So that is. That's my response to that. All right, Raymond Cole. Peace and prosperity to you and the fam, bro. Shout out, man, to you and your fam. To the Rays, man, from Pasadena, Inglewood to LA, man. Much love and respect each and every one of you, brothers and sisters. You say greetings to you, bub. Peace and blessings to your family. Salute to the brothers and sisters in the RGC. B1 is black first. Good to see you up in here, Raymond Skull. Always an honor, man. A pleasure to see you front and center, man, in this get out. Love the fact that you do it. All right, here he said, man, what's up with that Coney Island shooting? You think it was racially motivated, Brother Bub? And let me be frank, I'm just catching up on a lot. Yesterday, I was out. I did absolutely nothing. And the reason being was that from, I think, 5-something Friday morning, I got up at 5:30, 5:45 Friday morning. Didn't get to sleep until, what was that, Sunday morning at around, it had to be like maybe 5, 6 o'clock. Woke back up around 9 or 10, went home, you know, drove me and the wife home, and I was out. So I did nothing. Today I got up, man, fresh, you know, and went through all the things. I go through my feed, and I didn't come across that yet, but I recall reading a mention of it. I didn't get into it just yet. But yeah, break that down for me if you got the time. You want to put it in the comments. Who were the culprits? You know what I mean? See, sometimes, you know, you can just go on demographic, you know, ethnicity to know whether or not something was racial or not. You know, even if it don't start out that way, that's how it ends. You know what I mean? That's how it ends, you know. But yeah, I'm not fully aware of that. You know, I know what took place this weekend here in Los Angeles, which again, sad, man. It's messed up. As far as that go, I need to know the details of that. You know, I'll give you my opinion on it. Once I really get under my belt what transpired and who was involved. All right. You going to say, Brother Bub, do you remember how when Mexicans have house parties, music playing all night, but when black people have parties, the police come and shut the party down? 80s and 90s, present time. Yeah, they play that mariachi and yeah, shit, right? All night. From Friday to Sunday, right? Black people ain't never went and knocked on the door. Can y'all turn that shit down? Black people ain't called, you know, hey, we having the music playing all night long, you know. Like, we don't do that shit. But as soon as we do it, yeah, guess what? They'll call them. I've had it done here at my home, at our home, you know, and it's still daylight, you know. Had them, you know, come at about 10 at night. Like, hey, man, I didn't check the ordinance. You know, it's just now 10 o'clock. Got a little more time. But that's as a result of people calling, because I have a few neighbors who are Mexican, you know, and other ethnicities, you know, as well as black. But hey, you know, that's what it was. That's what it is. And again, I think part of a lot of what we go through with other ethnicities, other geographics, is I think it's solely based upon how they view us. And that view is based upon how we view and treat ourselves. Because they'll hear us talking bad about one another, you know? They'll hear it. And we'll look over, hey, man, you ear hustling? What you hear? No English. You know, that motherfucker heard everything we said. They go back and say, oh, man, I heard this. Man, they talking bad about their people. This is what they do, you know? But yeah, they'll call the people on you quick, too. You got to remember, in southern Los Angeles, in California, they got the green light to snitch on blacks. It's not snitching with them. Again, make that make sense. It's not snitching. I don't care what crime is. They can tell, and there'll be no repercussions. You know, it makes me think that if they SA one of our young sisters or brothers, they get a pass for that too. You know, I'm pretty sure they get passes for human trafficking if they ever get caught up with going to the penal system in Southern California, get the paperwork, find out he kidnapped the young sisters and brothers, you know, for human trafficking, ain't nothing gonna happen. Ain't nothing gonna happen. So that right there should show us, man, we're not on the same page. We're not on code with these people, and we need to get that in our heads, man. We're not on the same page with these people. Again, all I'm saying is, hey, man, be black. Black first. Don't worry about nobody else or nothing else, man. You know? And that's not racist to say, I'm not spending my dollar with the Mexicans because I'd rather spend my dollars with my people. That's not racism, man. You know? It's not. So, hey, there that is. You're going to say, Henry, they even discriminate when brothers and sisters are trying to get Section 8 vouchers. Or they'll tell on you, like I said, man. Shh. They'll tell quick. They'll call the people on you. You know? And for the most part, it is to get you to vacate, to leave, so that in the hopes that one of their people can fill that void, that spot. Be it Section 8, be it an apartment, be it a job, being it on a corner as a food vendor. Just a game they play. But they be in your face smiling. I don't lie that shit. I keep a straight face when I talk to them, you know, and I talk to a few, you know, have nothing against them personally. I'm talking about the demographic. I know where they stand, the demographic, you know. So real spit, man. Frank Nitty said, man, SMH, man. All right, man. Hey, peace and prosperity to you, bro. I see you back up in here hanging out with us. Appreciate that. You say, I heard about this. Shaking my head, man. She right. She ain't wrong. She ain't wrong. And again, it's about our people, man, getting to the point where hey, man, get on point. Get on code, man. Because they are. And I'm not necessarily saying to do it because they doing it. I'm saying do it, man. Get on code about us because it's beneficial to us, you know. And I'm just speaking about where our money is being spent. I ain't got nothing to say about that all that other shit, that telling shit, only that I wouldn't tell on a motherfucker, you know. And I hate their guts, you know. But that ain't gonna, you know, prompt me up, you know, propel me to go and say, hey, man, ICE, here they are. You know, we got people for that. And, you know, they should do their job. You know, that's just it's not my capacity. That's not my role. But we have people in that role. And I say, hey, do your job. Do your job, man. Shit. What you waiting on? I don't know if I should advocate that, but I'm just saying. It's not something I would do. All right. Anyway, Lisa Moore said 24/7 hotline. ICE 866 DHS2 ICE. All right. Here's the Delos. I remember I heard it, brother, say many years ago that no man from any other race wants his daughter to come home with the black man. But you wonder what you want to. I think we wonder why. You know, because again, here we are as a people. We haven't enslaved anyone. We haven't massacred numbers and scores of people. You know what I mean? We haven't committed genocide on no other race. You know what I mean? Come on, man. Why? You know, a lot of it is also, I think, a lot of these Mexicans actually see themselves as European. And they talk that shit. That green, white, red flag and all, they talk that shit, man. Them mugs is more European than the Europeans sometimes. They got Spaniard in them, you know, and the Spaniards hated the Moors, hated melanated people, hated them. You know, to this day, our mark is still upon them and they hate it. So I think it's just a matter of them, you know, that DNA speaking to them about us, you know. Yeah, we came over and we raped your ancestor, the women from your ancestral line. Yeah, so what? But you're part of us, you know. And they program like that. They do. Yeah. Let me get off that though, man. I'm just saying. Yeah, Frank Nitty, that's the message. That's the message. We're going to stop promoting all of them. In other words, just let's not give them our money. Let's not give them our money. Let's allow ourselves to be inconvenienced. Because if you really look at it, we're already being that. We're inconvenienced, man, in so many different ways and perspectives, man, that for a lot of us, we tend to put blinders on and we don't want to be mindful of what that inconvenience is. You know, racism is an inconvenience. Discrimination is an inconvenience. Persecution is an inconvenience. Attacking, and trying to harm our women and children, that should be an inconvenience for each and every one of us, to the point where, hey, man, no, we know this don't sit right up with us, so therefore we got to do something about it. Anytime there are inconveniences present, we're supposed to find a way to rid ourselves of an inconvenience, and at the same time, we have to understand that some conveniences are for us. We shouldn't be convenient with a lot of shit that's going on. And that's also the norm with us. We find excuses to not be inconvenienced. Like I say, man, because that Mexican stand is right there in that corner, and Brother Bob's Ribs and Soul Food Shack is 5 blocks away. This is how we looking at some shit. Well, that's right next door, Without sacrifice, man, there's no victory, man. Real spit, And if we want victory bad enough, there's a time and place for us to start making these sacrifices, man. We have to start making sacrifices, Real spit. Henry say, man, the news isn't giving up too much info, but suspect had all black on, black mask, still wanted, and 8 people shot, 4 adults and 4 kids. Come on, man. Like I said, I need to find out what community that was in and all kind of stuff. But here's the thing, you guys, and we've said this before on this channel. There are going to be times when it's very convenient for us to think that one of us did something to one of us. And people know this. People know this because, see, all it takes is for a gang member to be shot, right, and unalive. And the first thing we'll think is, damn, one of our own and kill one of our own again. Not taking into account that measures are being taken by other demographics, by agencies, departments, and powers that be to go out and do this type of shit, It's no different. It's a hunt. And they place the blame of the hunt on one of us. It's no different than Louisiana, the super rich or whatever, orchestrating hunts of black people. And that's just not Louisiana, but, I'm pretty sure probably take place in the majority of this country, or on islands, private islands. Only thing is they can't say we did it because we're not allowed, you know what I mean? But I'm saying that to say, man, let's not be quick to always say when something happens to us or one of us is injured that we did it, Let's not be quick to do that, because like I say, agencies, departments and shit like that, they have them type of squads, They have that. If many of you can remember the 92 peace treaty and everything, man, them people, they couldn't wait to get that shit back up and running. And there are so many stories relating to that. Those people coming back in our communities and trying to restart conflict and wars between us as a people. Got to say they succeeded, in some respects, because here we are, here we are. And the saddest part about it, a lot of us knew what was going on, and yet here we are, So, yeah, just, I agree with you. We want as much information as we can get on this shit, as much information as we can possibly get. Rakufu, what it do, bro? Peace and blessings to the RGC and all newcomers. Thank you for that. Yep. Like, share, follow, and subscribe to Under the Groove Podcast. This is touching bases with the people, y'all. We hanging out. We're hanging out, all right? That's what we're doing. Peace and blessings, okay. Rakufu said, peace and blessings, family. Word of the day is plenipotentiary. Petiary, all right, petiary, excuse me. All right. Plenipotentiary. Sorry, y'all. I'm caught up today. Know the word though. Plenipotentiary. Thank you. Damn. Salute right back to you, for Frank Nitty. I've been talking about you for a minute now. All right. What is this long ass story you doing right here, brother? Rakufu said, it's a noun, a person, especially a diplomatic agent, ambassador, or envoy invested with full, absolute, and unrestricted power to transact any business, negotiate treaties, or execute legal authority on behalf of a sovereign state or governing body. All right. A plenipotentiary. All right. Plenipotentiary. I'm gonna lock that one in. Won't have that problem again. All right. Rakufu said the sovereign power granted the ambassador plenipotentiary authority to sign the treaty, meaning her signature bound the state immediately and without the need for further ratification. Frank Nitty said, truth. The Moors taught them how to bathe. Let's say how to bathe, right? And plumbing and a whole lot of other shit. Lisa Moore said, yep, a lot of them talk good. A lot of them take, I guess you said talk. Yep, a lot of them take got white on the birth certificate, but a lot of them check the box, Caucasian or white on the box rather than Hispanic. True that. Peace to you as well, Fat Rat. I see you in the house, man. Peace to you and RGC Big Bub. Joe Madison, RIP, used to say the difference between a moment and a movement is sacrifice. Again, y'all, no sacrifice, no victory. And that's the truest shit I think ever spoken. That means then we're willing, to let go of some shit just to make sure that what needs to be done or accomplished is going to happen. It's going to get done. It's going to be accomplished. That's something I think a lot of our people aren't willing to do also. And that's not to, cast a bad light on our people. I'm just saying a lot of us aren't willing to make certain sacrifices because, again, we're so indoctrinated, brainwashed, and conditioned to carry on a certain way and then think in respect to that's the shit. You the shit by acting that way. I don't know, man. It's like a badge a lot of us wear, where we're not. I'm not talking about the sacrifice, but the behavior, how we carry on, we do it. A lot of our women will get out in the street and for whatever reason start twerking in the middle of the fucking street, and they tend to think that's cool. That's all right. Now I think in this respect, what's the sacrifice? Hey, to control yourself. Don't do that. You know what I mean? Right now, go to a party. The bedroom with your man or whatever. Make that sacrifice to carry yourself, and that would be that, I think, to carry yourself, accordingly, to have some dignity, our brothers, same way, same way. Everything is a show, and that's what it is, putting on these shows, we're entertaining, we've been told that we're more entertainers than we're anything else. So most of us aspire to be entertainers, athlete, rapper, actress, celebrity, whatever, just entertain. And that's our problem, I think, for the most part, you know. But that sacrifice, committing to make sacrifices for the cause, only good could come from that. And most of what we sacrifice, it's not a necessity, you know. It's not a necessity, you know, in terms of how we should be and how we should carry on. I just think that's just a moral obligation, you know, especially when you know better. And I have to say, I'm quite sure 99%, 98, 97% of us know better. You know, we know better. So that shouldn't even be a sacrifice. That should be just you coming into who you are and how you're supposed to carry yourself, especially out in public and society. Should be no cause for any of us to be, you know, doing most of the things that we're doing that we know cast a bad light on us. As I'm talking, I'm remembering all kind of shit. Last week I saw this video. There's one sister, she's in her vehicle in a parking lot and she's twerking. A lady walks by with her daughter and she shows her daughter what's going on, but she's showing her as a lesson. Hey, don't do that. You know, don't do it. And so she says something to the lady or whatever, and then big old thing happened. The lady that's twerking, no dignity, no self-respect. Like, man, fuck what you talking about. She shouldn't be looking, you know. That was her response. You bought her by my shit. I'm in my car twerking. She shouldn't be looking. And I'm like, damn, all right. You know, rather than say, you know what? Okay, no problem, sister. She got offended. You know, a lot of people saying, well, she's in her car. She's grown. She can do this. Again, a lot of us don't know how to take responsibility, do not know how to be, you know, masters of self-control, you know, aren't willing to, you know, take those steps that would, rather than cast a bad light on us, you know, cast a brighter light of positivity on us, you know what I mean? Just the thing we go through with our people. I'm not excusing it. I tend not to try to even make excuses for myself, let alone anyone else. But that's bad business, man. You know, again, our people just not at the point where, not all of us, but some of us are just not, we haven't reached the point where lessons in life have taught us something worthwhile. You know, worthwhile, you know, and that's some crazy work, man. But hey, you know, Fat Rat say, peace, you okay? I got that one, bro. I'll read it again. Joe Madison, RIP, used to say the difference between a moment and a movement is sacrifice. All right. Groove Line Productions. The PM said, what that like, Groove? What that groove like? Hey, man, everything's everything. How you do? All right. Ain't seen you in a minute. Good to see you. You asked, were the Moors a slave army? I can't speak to that. Maybe someone in the chat can speak to that. I've never read where the Moors were slave armies. There could have been the possibility that some of their rank probably were slaves. Who knows? I don't know specifically. So I'm not going to say yay or nay to that. But I've read about how large the armies were. Now, whether or not some of those in the army were slaves, I don't know. I don't know. But we have brothers in the Get Down and who more than likely can answer that, and hopefully they will. You know, throw that hat in the ring, y'all. If you got any knowledge on that. All right. Groove Line Productions said, were the Moors a slave army? All right, Michael Sales, I'll see you back, man, hanging out with it. That's a good look. Appreciate your presence, brother. Peace and prosperity, you and yours. Good to see you hanging out again. You say peace and blessings, my brother. Right back to you. And again, peace and prosperity. Henry said, man, crime is a business. Without it, they don't have a job. And I heard the stories, Brother Bub, about the pigs using impounded gang member cars and doing drive-bys to keep the confrontation and feuding going. No doubt. And I'm sure most of us who've been around know this, man. And again, what astounds me is the fact that we had knowledge of this, and yet, you know, we knew going into it, okay, you know what this is going to bring if brothers should decide to come together, you know, and for the betterment of, you know, our people. You had to know, we knew, and you had to have known that they would come out of the woodwork, and they would, by any means necessary, make attempts to continue that confrontation between Crips and Bloods, or black against black. That's what they do. It benefits them. It benefits them. There's no benefit to them if we aren't warned with one another. The first time we stop, and I mean stop completely with this shit, guess what? The economy will change in the realest sense, in a lot of ways. If brothers ceased with this activity, a lot of things would change economically within our community, which would be a good thing, but negatively for the powers that be, that would be a bad thing. It doesn't serve them for us to be unified, you know, loving and respecting one another. It doesn't pay. So the obvious is all these demographics, they eat off us in some form or fashion. We're the only ones not eating off of us. You know what I mean? Oh, we'll destroy one another. We'll knock each other down. We'll do shit that's contrary to what we're supposed to be doing. But as a result of any of that and all of that, we don't see any dividends. They do. They do. You know, from the mortuaries and graveyards to the prisons. You know, just think about that. You know, a lot of our brothers, man, are suffering, caught up in prisons or in cemeteries because we're not seeing the big picture. And again, part of that is because of the distractions thrown at us by the powers that be. But again, that excuse can only last for so long. You know, our reality should be that enough of us have been through this shit to know better. And not only that, but to be able or to be in a position to tell our young brothers and sisters, whether they want to hear it or not, nah, man, it's backwards shit. We're not doing this. Excuse me. Let me say that again. Nah, brother, we not doing this. Fuck all that. You know, fuck all that. So now that comes to, again, sacrifices. What types of sacrifices are we willing to make to get that point across? And I'm not talking about nothing violent. I'm not talking about nothing violent, but I'm talking about being firm. I'm talking about being straight up, straight out, you know, straight up and straight out. No more of this shit, man. That's the sacrifice some of us, and we know who we are, should make, or, you know, I don't want to put no burdens on nobody. So I'm kind of, I tend to be, attempt to be, you know, mindful of what comes out of my mouth. You know, you're going to get a little cursing, a little cussing every now and then. Hold on. Hey, Willie. Oh, okay. Thank you. You're looking out for me. All right. But look, we're not willing to make sacrifices, especially those of us who helped create this problem. You know what I'm saying? Who had their hands in this mess, who fomented a lot of what we see going on today, you know, who contributed to this black on black shit. There are a lot of us who aren't willing to sacrifice, you know, time, words of wisdom, advice, guidance to those who need it most. You know, a lot of those same individuals will say, "I'm in them youngsters ain't listening to nobody. Yeah, they did actually. Actually, they did. They listened to all the stories that were told about you. How you was loped out, you know, how you represented Blood, Crip, Cuz, and Hoover. Yeah, they listened. They listened. You even have those today who will listen to those of us who are no longer involved in the shit and see it for the detriment it is to the community. They still listen. But are we saying it enough? Are we saying it loud enough? You know, I got people in my family, man, who put the work in, you know, to let loved ones know this was bull crap, man. You know, give me the opportunity. I'll tell the cat in a minute, man, some fuck shit, man. You ain't making reservations, but for one or two things, prison or death, you know. And if you go about this shit the way a lot of, you know, dudes going about it, you'll be there for the rest of your life. Either there on that reservation behind somebody's wall or that reservation on somebody's hill, you know. But we have individuals who do this, you know, and I'm not speaking to them individuals. You know, I'm saying what I'm saying to those individuals who know better, you know, but we're not lacing them better. We're not even on them like we're supposed to be. You know, I've had conversations with loved ones, and it could be as a result of something that went bad in the community. And you can see the emotion and the feeling, you know, from like, damn, man, you know, it's, you know, and be pissed off because that's, you know, that's that attachment we haven't disconnected from. We haven't cut that tether, you know, that cord that connects us to the streets in such a way when something go bad, we want to jump back in the streets, you know, or we, you know, say something shouldn't be said to individuals that shouldn't be said to, you know. Brothers, man, and sisters, we need to step up to the plate again. For those of you, and you know who you are, don't, you know, from everywhere. We from everywhere, right? Those are the sacrifices we got to make, man. Those are the sacrifices. Because again, I don't think that any of these young brothers and sisters actually want to see their lives end so early. And again, it could be at that reservation on the hill or at that reservation behind somebody's wall. You know, I just don't think, you know, they caught in the moment. I have to agree to that. I acknowledge that. But ask them about their ambitions, their hopes and dreams, you know, and why they don't think they can attain them, reach those goals. And it might be something in what they say to you that could shine some light in terms of, okay, I know how to help you. But we don't do that. We don't make those sacrifices where we go and sit down with them and discuss with them what it is that can help them and get them out of this situation. You know, don't just bring them out of it and set them idle. You got to bring them out of that shit and have something in place for them to do, you know. But that's something we should do that we don't do. All right, make those type of sacrifices. And again, I'm just speaking to those who, like myself, was once a participant in this shit, who see it for what it is now, you know. So, you know, let's think about it like that, if you can, if you will, you know. We said crime into business. They need us to act this way so they can continue to eat off us. And again, the first time, that first moment where all this ceased to exist, especially this gang, this black king on black king shit, this black queen on black queen shit. Once that ceased, they have no win. We're winning. Then we become the true winners. We become those who get to dictate now the direction we go in. We're at the helm now, you know. We're dabbling down in independence and freedom for real, you know. We're on that road. So yeah, man, that would be a good look, man, if we can get it to that, you know. If we can get it to that. All right, Devin Butchie, what it do, loved one? I see you up in here. Peace, right back to you. Said peace, brother Bub. Right back to you, Devin, man. Good for you. Good to see you hanging out with us. Fat Rat Playboy said, man, where I'm at with this generation, Bub, it's almost like to restore order. we would have to introduce the mischief makers to the 1980s banging. I get it. I understand what you're saying. You know, I get it. Let me go on. You say, I've gotten so far away from that temperament, built the family, established business, and linked to a higher fraternal order. Fraternal order, all right? It would seem outrageous to find me in that back seat. I know you hear me. It's going to demand a sacrifice of that magnitude, and outside of us doing it, stand by for the annihilation initiative of the government. You said, I'm gonna read it again because I think it's powerful. Where I'm at with this generation, Bub, it's almost like to restore order, we would have to introduce the mischief makers to the 1980s banging. And that's part of it, you know. But I wouldn't, and at the same time, I'm not suggesting that be a role you or I play, you know, that type of thing. You know what I mean? You know, but you're going to say, I've gotten so far away from that temperament, built the family, established business, and linked to a higher fraternal order, it would seem outrageous to find me in that back seat. I know you hear me. I hear you loud and clear, bro. My thoughts precisely. My thoughts precisely. And I have to admit, I've had those thoughts of getting out there and setting the record straight, you know. You know, that 1980s, you know, banging strong arm and hey, man, this what it is, you know, But yeah, I refuse to have those visions as well, you know what I mean? Because I've already made my mind up on that, you know what I mean? Not again, you know what I mean? So I hear you loud and clear. I hear you. You're going to say, man, it's going to demand a sacrifice of that magnitude and outside of us doing it. But stand by for the annihilation initiative of the government. That part they ain't getting. Because I hear you loud and clear in that respect as well. It's a lot, man, that's going on. It's a lot. And we've had these discussions, fellas and sisters, where there are things coming down the pipes at us. And because I think that we're so distracted, we own, our people are so involved in so much frivol, we can't even see reality, man, from bullshit. So that's my statement. A lot of our people are blinded or focused on all they know and see is bullshit. Reality's missing them. And the saddest part about that, and I say this quite often, is when reality hit them and shock them right back into the present, it might be too late at that point, you know? And I think this is why, you know, I say a lot that we got to do whatever we can to reach our young kings and queens before that moment takes place, you know? And I'm acknowledging that we're not going to reach everybody. You know, some of them don't want to be reached. Harry Tubman said, hey, man, I couldn't tell a slave they were slave, but they didn't know they were. You know what I mean? If they don't know that this is some bad shit, then me telling them, us telling them, yeah, I get it, ain't going to register. You know, it's not going to register. You're going to save an individual who don't know they're a slave to something, you know, or that they're in this cycle that's detrimental, you know, to their life and the lives of those around them. How can you convince them of that if they don't see that, you know? I hear you, bro. I hear you. I don't like it no more than you do, though, Fat Rat. That's the truth, bro. All right, here goes something right here, man. I want to hit you guys with this. You know, this is, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how we can transmute, can bring these conversations to the table, touch bases with the people based upon these conversations, but to the point where we begin to develop solutions that become that can be applied you know, in our communities. You know, we hear a lot of talk, man, about nonprofits and the work that they do. You know, and I have an opinion, and that is, it's just pure and simple. It's not enough. It's not enough. When we see most of those who have nonprofits, and it's not for all nonprofits or those who have them, there are some who get the money and they do everything with the money, but what they're supposed to do. They got nice vehicles, you know, they're paying, you know, good rents on nice places, you know, got the jury, they go, it's their job, but the job is not fulfilling in the sense that they have the job. The job was created, developed for them to save our people. And I think a lot of these nonprofits fall short of that. You know, some of them might do maybe a quarter of the work, you know, and then there are some that may do 100% of the work. But I'm bringing up nonprofits to express that they're really the first line, not of defense, but the first line of rescuing our youth by any means. They get the funding for it. You know, they get the funding for it. So by all means, they should exercise those funds and their time, because their time have to be applied to the work they're assigned to, or that they, you know, telling people they're doing. You got to put in that time, man. They can't be devoted more towards sitting in meetings with politicians trying to get more money to line your pockets with and not do nothing creative or productive in the community. Again, I mentioned there are nonprofits everywhere, and yet we don't have STEM programs, after school programs for these youth to go and learn something in terms of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. You know, if there's any after school program instead of park where there's just basketball, hanging out, getting high, whatever, you know, but it's not in an educational setting or sense. They're not going there to get that. And that's what should or needs to be offered to them as well. We don't see that. Again, I did a piece on that. The only one I know of that exists, where there are two. One is in Watts and the other is in Gardena. I haven't heard of one in LA. Manchester Park, you know, St. Andrews. I haven't heard of that. But these programs are necessary, you know, because, you know, through them, we can put in the minds of our young brothers and sisters some constructive. You know, we can help them to develop, you know what I mean, certain skills, you know, understanding, knowledge that would benefit them in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you know. But again, a lot of sacrifices aren't being made that should be made. A lot of endeavors that should be taken up are left by the wayside. A lot of us have moved on with our own lives. We've established ourselves with our families, our businesses, and just how we carry ourselves from day to day. A lot of us are looking at it like, hey, man, you know, I'm wired like this. If I get involved, I might lose it. You know, I might, hey, check a cat too viciously, and before you know it, I'm on my way back. You know, so I get all that. But I think that where there's a will, there's a way. You know, that's just my thought. You know, there's a lot to this stuff we could be doing, a lot more than what's being done. We just have to figure out again what that is. What are the solutions? You know, what are we coming up with? What can we come up with based upon the discussions, the conversations we have? You know, most of this stuff, these conversations we have, I retain, I keep. You know, I'm lined up for a couple of events. I think, let me be honest, let me be correct, this month, next month, where, like I said, I'm getting into that space now where, you know, I'll be in a position where I'm going to speak truth to power. You know, might say some things cats won't like, you know, but I'm not there to appease anybody's feelings. You know, I'm there to make you think. And this is what we're supposed to be presenting to our people. You know, we want to make things thought-provoking. We want to give them something to really think about in terms of their lives and the lives of those who are around them. So, you know, come what may. But I'm mindful. I'm mindful. One thing for sure, I will not be in the back seat or on somebody's heel, you know, attempting to get this thing done. You know, I'm be mindful of that shit. Let me drop this up in here, man. It's another clip. Very insightful. No. All right, where is it? Oh, is it Facebook? Yep, there we go. All right, so get a bar of this, y'all. Pretty insightful.
Black people freed ourselves from plantations through revolt, through resistance, through friction and frustration. We have been told these stories as if there was this benevolent society that just felt like slavery was so wrong. They felt like slavery was wrong because there were uprisings happening and people were showing the level of frustration that they had and the brutality that existed in the American South. And what we have today is people who believe that we got where we got because of diplomacy, when diplomacy was only granted after the friction and the frustration. That we have to create enough level of friction and frustration with people that they understand that we are not fucking around with them. Not through respectability politics, not through diplomacy, but through friction and frustration. That is how we freed ourselves from plantations. That is how we overcame Jim Crow through the civil rights movement. And I think that because so many of us have had a less frustrating pathway upwards, because post-civil rights, there was an illusion of kumbaya that existed, that many of us felt like the progress was good enough and that they would never go back to doing some of these savage level, disrespectful, dismissive, outright racist things. And now that they are, so many people are shocked. But the reality is we stopped giving friction and frustration because of a level of comfort. And if you are not the type of person who can create friction and frustration, maybe this is not the moment for you to lead, because there's literal wars going on. And then there are the assaults that are happening on Black people, which most Black people feel like they are under attack by this American government, indirectly or directly, because if you are against diversity, equity, and inclusion, all of the things that we have fought for the last 50 and 60 years, you are attacking us. And we are at a point where it looks like too many of our leaders don't respond like we are under attack. So don't be frustrated at the people asking for you to fight harder when we are under attack. This is not the time to be diplomats. This is the time for you to be warriors for your people and create a level of friction and frustration that gets us to the next level of progress in this country. It comes through friction and frustration like it always has. Accountability is not an attack. Black people demanding more from Black leadership is not attacking Black leadership. Matter of fact, we are showing you very clearly that we are all gas, no brakes right now. And we are looking for you to be all gas, no brakes. If you want to create a level of movement with your people, you gotta be moving in a way that moves your people. The other side is doing enough to move their people. Are we doing enough to move ours? It's a simple question. It's a simple question.
No, we're not.
These questions need answers, and these dialogues should be happening. And then when they don't happen in private, they begin to happen in public. I wish that there was a way for me to say it less blunt, but the pressure that is upon Black people, they are showing us they ain't fucking around. And neither should we. As always, do good, seek justice, keep pushing. Black.
All right. Gary Chambers Jr., appreciate that one there. All right. not fucking around, man. We cannot be fucking around. And that go even with our own. We can't, you know? We can't. I think what he said is valid. There's a lot of validity to what he said. You know? You know? A lot of the progress we made came from friction. Straight up, you know? Progress does not come from comfort. It comes from friction. So, like you said, man, the high echelons of our so-called leaders, politicians, I don't care where we at. It could be in the house, you know, the halls of power, on streets. Our leaders are not creating enough fiction to bring about the change that we need to see in order to get our shit moving the way it's supposed to. Everyone else is doing it but us. Again, we were talking about this a minute ago, but where, you know, we seem to be in this comfort zone like it's all good. And we still hear that. You know, it's all good, you know. And then it's not. It's all bad, man. Our people have not stood up to this bull crap we're faced with every day. We haven't said enough to those who need saying too. But even more so, we aren't doing enough to show those who need to see that we're not fucking around, you know, to get the idea that we're not fucking around. We aren't. The movement is there. There's some movement, but hey, man, like he said, and I agree, this thing's supposed to be all gas, no brakes. The shift has actually occurred. Now we want to keep that shift. We want to keep it going. We want to keep that movement. And the only way that's going to happen is we get involved. So from, like I say, the street level to the halls of power, it is our responsibility as a people to, hey, we're not fucking around, man. You know, and if it's just verbally, you know, letting them know we are not fucking around, then that's what we do. That's what we should do. You know, anything less than that, man, again, it will pan out as this. If we are not giving this thing the energy it deserves, let's be real, man, we're going to lose momentum. And if that happens, everything we've done up to this point today will be in vain. Will be for naught, man. And there's no telling when the next window will present itself for us to bring about change for us. Because we all know ain't nobody trying to do none of that for us. This progress, man, that we're talking about, that we, you know, we're all enjoying, we see it. You know, it does not come from being comfortable. You know, it does not come from having a state of convenience at your disposal. It just doesn't, you know. It's going to come from friction. And if we pay attention, we see the friction. You know, we see it. We see it. But we have to capitalize on it even more so. That's my take on it. All right. That's just my take on it, you know. All right, Henry, say absolutely. Facts, brother Bub. Yeah, that one there, go to that brother there, man. That was a good piece. I love how he put that together. You know, I love how he did that. All right. Now here's the last one. And this is one of our queen sisters speaking. This is a sister speaking. And don't be in your feelings, nobody. Brothers. Do not get in your feelings. Just let's hear her out. And you ask yourself, is that true? Is this us? All right, here we go.
was okay to murder Black boys in their own communities is because they knew the Black man wasn't going to do shit. And they were going to go to court and fight in a white supremacist society and win. And when they were going to be released from jail, they were going to go back to living their civilian lives as if nothing ever happened. George Zimmerman went so far as to try to profit off of the murder of Trayvon Martin. He sold signed bags of Skittles to mock his death. And he still walks around. Yet in between the time that George Zimmerman murdered Trayvon Martin to today, there have been thousands of Black men killed by other Black men across America.
Let's go.
The problem is that the men in the community that are raising these boys, and I don't mean they daddies, I mean the ones in the streets that are raising these young men, is they're teaching them that their enemies look just like them instead of raising them to be real soldiers. Crash out on the right ones. Because guess what? Other communities, that's what they do. They round up the YNs of their community and train them to fight for them, not against them. We are in the land of our captors. Pay attention.
Y'all gonna have to wake up, man. You ain't gotta listen to me, but you're gonna pay the price today or you're gonna pay it tomorrow if you don't wake up and wake up fast.
You're already on death row and don't even know it.
They trying to kill us. I think that they trying to kill us. Make no mistake in the midst of all this fakeness, I'm the realest. I think they trying to kill us. I think that they trying to kill us. Make no mistake in the midst of all this fakeness, I'm the realest.
The reason why George Zimmerman and Rick Chow felt that it was okay to murder Black boys in their own communities is because they knew the Black man wasn't going to do shit. And they were going to go to court and fight in a white supremacist society and win. And when they were going to be released from jail, they were going to go back to living their civilian lives as if nothing ever happened. George Zimmerman went so far as to try to profit off of the murder of Trayvon Martin. He sold signed bags of Skittles to mock his death. And he still walks around. Yet in between the time that George Zimmerman murdered Trayvon Martin to today, there have been thousands of Black men killed by other Black men across America.
Let's go.
The problem is that the men in the community that are raising these boys, and I don't mean they daddies, I mean the ones in the streets that are raising these young men, is they're teaching them that their enemies look just like them instead of raising them to be real soldiers. Crash out on the right ones. Because guess what? Other communities, that's what they do. They round up the YNs of their community and train them to fight for them, not against them. We are in the land of our captors. Pay attention.
Y'all gonna have to wake up, man. You ain't got.
All right. From YNs to gods, man. Let's save our sons, man, and our daughters. But yeah, I found that to be very powerful. And the sister, she hit home with that. You know, because I think for a lot of us, that is the mindset, that is how we deal with shit. We do allow other demographics to kill us, you know, and we do nothing. Maybe that's because we kill us probably more often than they do. So we see it as something that's, you know, like it's all right, you know, it's all right. That's what's wrong, you know, because it's not right. One, that we're killing each other the way we are, and two, that other demographics, other ethnicities see it as okay to kill us and not be worried about retribution, revenge, or retaliation, or even prison. That's just a fact, you know. No sacrifice, man, no victory, y'all. And you know, that's just what it is, you know. No sacrifice, no victory. We're in a situation, you know. For any of you who don't know it, we are at war. War has been waged against us. We've been in this shit for, you know, since before our people. You know what I mean? Our parents. And we're delivering our young brothers and sisters to the same front. We're taking them to the same front, you know, to be, you know, just massacred or whatever else is going to come with this. You know, everything that we've been through, we're delivering them to that same exact thing, y'all. And that's what's sad. That's what's sad, man. We seem to have not learned anything in terms of, you know, what our plight is, what our situation, our station, how we're being treated. You know, it's like we've taken nothing from this. Everything that we've taken from our existence here, what we're going through, just I'm speaking to this generation, us, you know, from, you know, the 80s, 90s, whatever. It's like we ain't got shit from this shit, man. We ain't learned nothing, you know. And again, I'm just as guilty as those who are guilty of it today. You know what I mean? I resent it took as long as it did, you know, for me to wake up, you know. But you know, here I am, you know. Here I am. And I would love to do everything I can, you know, to help brothers, you know, to nudge brothers, to wake them up. You know, not just to make them conscious. You know, that's one thing. You know, but to give them a conscience. You know, let them think about what's right and wrong, what's moral, you know, what's moralless, you know, how to defend the people rather than how do we harm the people, you know. That's what's up. How do we save the people? Not how do we destroy them? That's where our work lies, man. And I say this, especially to, you know, those who came before me and those in my generation now. That's our work. We're obligated in a lot of respects to do what's right by our young brothers and sisters, you know. And it's not always dictated or it isn't determined by, you know, coming out of a bag on nobody. You know what I mean? You know, it's not what we do, it's how we do it. Just as much as it's not what we say, but how we say it that matters the most. So we have to get in that frame of mind or in that mode of action where we start at the very least, responding to this stuff, reacting to it, to bring it to a point where our brothers and our sisters aren't dying, man, by our hands. You know, they're learning to love and trust one another, respect each other, as well as learning how to defend not just themselves, but everybody that look like. That's our work, you know. That's what's up. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Real spit, man. I think I got one more. I thought I had one more. I was wrong. All right, I ain't gonna go search for shit. Now, this little brother worth showing again. Well, that's too much. All right. So I ain't got no more for us right now, y'all. I could actually go and show that again, but I'm not. I'll have some fresh stuff tomorrow. But yeah, man, so we have to start actually being a little harder with this shit, you know? It ain't no other way to say it, right? We have to stop with this respectability, diplomacy, and politics shit and get on the ball. Again, in a lot of ways, push the line, push the right line, the correct line, you know, for our brothers and sisters, you know, to be on, to follow, you know, to get us, you know, just started, you know, give us a little more momentum. You know, all this other shit again, man, we doing this, you know, we doing this, but we not doing this, you know. I'm telling you, man, we could overnight change the damn world, at least here in America. This is where we start from, you know, Black Americans, you know, FBA, whatever you want to call yourself, man. But we have to do more, man, to get us to where we need to be. And as long as we depending on somebody else to make it all right for us, we're never going to get to that point where we actually know it in our cores and our spirits that we're all right. That's nobody's else. No one else. That's our job. That's not work for anyone else, man. That's why no one else is doing it. You know what I mean? That's our job. It's our job, man. Yeah, I had to. I'm sending shout out to India Ari. She made a statement, and there was nothing wrong with what she said about Young Miami with her song "Spin That." But I looked today and I saw the blowback. You know, how it almost seemed to have backfired on her for not hating on. She didn't hate on her or nothing. You know what I mean? She just basically said, hey, you know, based on, you know, I wouldn't listen to this type of music, you know, because I understand what it does. And she went on to say, the fact of the matter is the same thing Harriet said about our people. Sometimes you can't tell a slave they're a slave, you know what I mean? Because they're so in it. You know, and if that's not the case, then, you know, say, I ain't no slave. Well, you know, if they're getting some money, some fame, you really can't tell them shit. You know, they'll accept being a slave if they get in the bag. But India Reed went in and she said what she said, and it was respectful to the core. But then you had suckers like Trick Daddy and others coming out the woodwork and start going in on India Reed. Dude, are you serious? Just the foulest shit, man. No respect. And this ain't no youngster. Trick Daddy. He's not no kid, man. The shit he said was just so disrespectful. But then I think about it, I said, his name. And he lived by that. And he's a trick. He was a trick. He's a Trick Daddy. You know, so, you know, I had to get hold of myself like, wait a minute. I shouldn't have expected any more from him with a name like that, you know, so. But India Reed, man, kudos to her, man. Respect for saying what she said. And, you know, it wasn't no surprise that Young Miami, the female, got back and said what she said. And the way she put it was some old crafty shit. Something I'm pretty sure one of her handlers wrote and told her to say. But she went in as though she got to send, hey, you know, that wasn't for whoever, that's for my street level ninjas. You know, and I'm like, oh, so you didn't get the point. She didn't get it, you know, and again, she probably didn't get it. Someone probably said this for her, you know. She probably couldn't spell none of the shit, you know, that she replied or responded with. I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, but her response was basically, fuck all of us who got something to say about it. She talking to her thugs and her ninjas in the streets. You know, run it up, spin that, scam that, you know, put yourselves in jeopardy. You know, for a bag that costs whatever it costs, you know what I mean? It might cost $20 to make, charge you thousands for it, you know. I don't, shit's weird, man. Shit is weird. All right, Chris, good to see you, bro. Said black people have been conditioned. We need to be reprogrammed. We've said this time and again. Our indoctrination, man, is severe. We need to relearn everything we think we know. You know what I mean? I agree with you wholeheartedly on that, bro. To what extent that actually happened, I don't know. But I commend our brothers and sisters who are in this struggle and they see the bigger picture, even those of them who've come in and they're just now getting it, or that they didn't care at first, but now they're caring because they see what's happening. You know, we have to, you know, send shots out to them, commend them, you know what I'm saying, for waking up now, you know what I mean? So that's a good look. Our brothers and sisters that's getting involved with this, we see what's happening. We see that the Asians don't love us or respect us. We see that the Mexicans sure in the fuck don't love us or respect us. We see what we see about every demographic when it comes to us. We have to take off these lenses, you guys, that make us see shit not as it is, but as we're being told it is. You know what I mean? We're being fooled into thinking everything's all right, and it's not. It's not. We're looking at life through the lens of those who control us. Let's just say what we call it, say it as it is, man. We're being controlled by others, and they're telling us, hey, this is how you should see this. You shouldn't see there's anything wrong with twerking in the middle of the street 1 in the afternoon, ain't a bit of music playing, ain't nothing but men and other people. You got kids, Oh, you don't worry about it. Don't see it as disrespecting yourself because you're in the streets acting a damn fool. This is what we got to get to, man. And once we get to that, I think we'll be better off for it. But I agree with you, Chris. We just so indoctrinated, so conditioned, so brainwashed that it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work, man. Ain't like it can't happen, though. Ain't like it can't be done. Nothing's impossible. We had people get on here. I dropped some clips tonight, and they were talking about how they came up from slavery, man. To accomplish everything that they accomplished. And you got to think about it in a matter of time that astounded those who were watching, who thought that we would just suffer and be at their beck and call, but to see what we were able to accomplish in a short period of time was enough to let them or give them understanding that, okay, we can't leave these people unattended. We got to find a way to make them dependent on us at all times. That's what they did with integration. But that's another story, right? That's another story. Raymond Cole said, man, due to events on July 4th, I can't say what's to become of our people. Man, we have young blacks being found deceased. No answers, though. Young girls hung. And yet we continue to victimize our own. Yeah, there's that thing about the young brother. And we were just talking about this last week with our sisters and brothers, trusting these people. See, something's wrong. They're picking up the wrong information. They're trusting these people. They're going hanging out with these people. And that's the last that their people see of them. Been unalived. This young brother go out on the boat with three woods. And his body found in the water. They didn't conned him out on a boat and killed him. Our sisters are entrusting white males and others for money, whatever, man. It don't make no damn sense. But they're, coming up short. None of these people respect us, let alone our women. Because a lot of them think we don't respect our women or our children. So, yeah, it seems to be a free fall on us, on our sisters who catch the most hell, on our children who catch the most hell after our sisters, than on us, But we're acting so defenseless in all this shit that it's just shameful that, we haven't stood up to an extent or to the point where we're letting, hey, man, no more. No more. And that would go for anybody who would do us damage or harm, or would try to take advantage of our people, our women especially, and our children. We have to do something. And if not, hey, I don't know how we could expect anything to be different. Chris said, man, they want this country. They want a piece of the American pie, except for us. I was reading something today where some Mexican put in the thing, yeah, y'all ain't shit, y'all this, y'all that, y'all was slave, da-da-da-da-da. Y'all don't know, y'all hit, da-da-da. And I found it interesting that he would say all that, only because I'm pretty sure I know his history better than him. That, hey, man, you guys were enslaved in the worst way, Not only that, but shit, they were trying to still do y'all. And if it wasn't for blacks in that War of Independence, remember that one? Where they actually had a couple of them. If it wasn't for us, no telling where they'd be right now. Our presence just, speaking geographically in that area, any other, has history, We've been here. We've been around a long time. But to speak the way he spoke about us, it was I I want to say it was offensive, but what it was ignorant, you know, in the realest sense. It was just ignorance on his behalf, you know. And not only that, but it was him, whoever this individual is, you know. It's on the recording now. Y'all go back and look at it. I would suggest that you like and share it and go read all those little messages that sister was putting in there that they are saying. Just ignorance in terms of who he is and where he come from, you know. So this is what we're up against, man. We're up against this shit, you know. And for the most part, we need to get it in our heads that the American dream does not apply to us. We have to create our own. We have to create our own, you know. And it has to come from, you know, not just our experiences, but our aspirations, you know, not just who we were, who we are, but also who we'll be in the future. That's what this dream should encompass. Anything less than that, man, we're setting ourselves up, man, for more letdown, setbacks, you know, and, you know, disrespect, harm, brutality, you know, and racism, straight up, man, you know. Raymond Skull said, man, July 4th is independence for white folks, their freedom. But yet these same people murdered our leaders for advocating our own freedoms as black folks. Again, for any of us who would think that that holiday is something in support of black independence or blacks being a part of that revolutionary war between them, their own, you know, Europeans fighting Europeans at the time, you know what I mean? But that had nothing to actually do with us. However, black was the first to die in the whole exchange, right? And not only that, but throughout this country's struggle, our people have stood front and center in defense of this get down, y'all. And here it is, 2026. We still ain't recognized as citizens of this country, or, you know, a part of this nation in the realest sense, man. So we need to do what we need to do. Let's fuck being polite politically and anything else, you know. It's time to stop fucking around. No other way to put that. And that includes even with our own, you know. So any progress we're looking to have, attain, is not going to come from comfort. It's just not, man. It's going to come from friction. Us knowing that we're in war and we ain't asking for shit. We're taking it. We're willing to fight for it. Again, that starts with our own and anybody else, man, that might be in the way of us getting to where we need to be. All right, I'm going to say that, and I said it. Hey, shit. Chris said, man, since the beginning, it was love at first sight. Mexicans thought the white man was a gift from God. Yeah. Yeah, they gave him everything. Their women, Montezuma, man, he sold them all out in the hopes to save his own ass. That what kind of leader he was. Yeah. Raymond Skull said, due to the bestial nature we brutalize one another with, we can't ever expect other races to look at us with respect, with grace, or dignity. Then we sensationalize violence against each other. And that's our problem. We have to get out of that frame of mind, that way of acting, carrying on, behaving. And I'm telling you, man, I agree. My bro, man, Fat Rap, man, I hear you loud and clear. I get it. I know that part. But I'm sitting there thinking there are different ways of approaching this issue. And yeah. We're going to have to get to that. We're going to have to get to that. You know, we do nobody any good behind somebody's wall or buried on their hill. So, yeah, I think it's incumbent on us to figure out how to get this thing done. And that's a call to all our brothers and sisters who has something to do with this whole thing, man. All right. We're obligated, man. We have to make some sort of sacrifice to get to that victory we all can see, that we all dream about. All right. That's it, man. So I'm going to leave that at that. And I'm going to go in here and play the second half of this Get Down. Still having a hard time figuring out the video for this, man. But yeah, that is, man. And well, I'll play another part tomorrow on the intro. Love yourself, man, so we love each other, all right? Take care of yourself, so take care of each other. Obligated to do those things, all right? You know, it's no different from doing that with your offspring, your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, your fathers, aunts, uncles, your cousins, your friends. We're all family. And we have to start taking better care of one another, all right? Love yourself so you can love each other, man. Take care of yourself so that we can take care of one another. Power is in the people, y'all. It's in the people, all right? That's where our power lies, in us. In us, all right? Be one equals black first. Let's keep that in mind, all right? Focus on the focus, everybody. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. You are, you have been, and you will be under the groove. One love, y'all.
Count the names, count the bodies, count the victory. Cullen Hughes, Hurst, and writing future history. From the Apollo to the Borough to the Sphere. Where the echo of those Harlem nights still ringing clear. So when they ask what happened in those tenement flats, between the spirituals and where consciousness is at, tell them we transform suffering to scholarship and song. Tell them we've been telling you we're brilliant all along. The Renaissance will prologue every decade since the sequel. Every black child born's continuation of the people who survived the Middle Passage, survived the Jim Crow laws, and built magnificence from nothing but their vision and their flaws. That's in the sergeant. This is once a less than had this and Mercedes. Please don't you, I can't stop us. Power sensitive project, the applause for polls. Need your data, talks and counsel, any problem when the wet just wanna build the season bait. Now don't get the pause. It's just the raising up the times. Plead the markets off the main. Make it honor fans. Turn the neck and love the dirt. Suffer like a kesha. You were grown to preaching up on side as each alone. Bitch on the shit and untrue seeing vets. Someone that buried in some Gary land. Be hell in heaven, you see what the Bonavir. If wait talking for the Margaret to keep him for the club and saw the boards to the Sanger land is carried open slow to keep us looking on my mother. Break it, generous, he more than he and let the peasant be. It's every time we keep a spawn.